Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Slavika. Slavika is a card game for 2 to 5 players.
Slavika.
Okay, Slavika. I will.
Or Slavika.
Anyhow,
Maybe it's Slavika.
This is a
Slavika.
this is a 30-minute game, which is a lie. It says on the box. It says 30 minutes. Well, it's 30 minutes. Maybe I haven't played it with 2. Maybe with 2 it's 30 minutes, or maybe even with 3 30 minutes. But with 4 or 5. Not going to be 30 minutes. But anyhow, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. Let's take a look at how the game works, and we'll be back. In Slavika, players are going to be fighting monsters at different locations. Here's a location, for example. This location shows that a treasure is going to be placed on this, and the best hero is going to win this treasure, which is worth a certain amount of gold, usually 2, 3, or 4. Also, you can see numbers up here. Whoever has the highest hero strength will get 11 points, then 6 points, and 3 points for third place. This shows how many monsters are allowed at this location, 4, and how many heroes are allowed at this location, 4. And this shows a special ability. Those types of monsters get +1 when to this location. So these locations are out here randomly. When a location is resolved and a heroes win a location, that location will flip over, and then it's a different kind of location on the back. And so that's how the game progresses. Now each player has their own scoring board, and so they'll put this board in front of them, and they are going to keep track of how many points they have. I have 30 points, I have 38 points, as the game progresses with the tokens that they have. Now, players are going to have 2 things. They're going to have a hand of hero cards. So let's take a look at some of these hero cards. Each of these hero cards shows a strength on them. So for example, this gentleman here is a strength of 6. This lady here is a strength of 1, 2, 5, 4, and 3. They're strength 1 through 6. But not only that, each of these guys some of them have special abilities. It depends what they are. So for example, this guy here with the eye, he's a ranger, and he can be exchanged for somebody else. The big point ones, the warriors, don't have any kind of special ability, but the archer reduces all monster strengths to 4 if they're over 4. A wizard's +2 for every warrior at the battle, and then a thief can steal a treasure card from somebody else who is at the battle. So you have a handful of these hero cards, and you'll be playing these at different locations. You will also be playing different sorts of monsters. Each monster has a certain type, and then they also have how strong they are. So that monster is 5, and he's worth an extra point if you kill this monster. While this monster here is only a 2. Here's a big mean one who's worth 7. There are some monsters who aren't worth anything, but they have special abilities, like this monster here knocks warriors down to 2. And then there's weenie monsters who you don't have to worry about. But there's all sorts of different monsters. Some of them have special abilities. Some of them just are big and strong and mean and nasty, and there's just different kinds of monsters. So you'll have a handful of monsters and a handful of heroes. And what you do on your turn, the first thing you do is you must play a hero from your hand next to one of these spots. You can't go over the hero limit, so there's 4 heroes here, so there can't be more. If all the spots are full, and this will happen as the game progresses, then you don't do anything. For your second action, you must play a hero to a different spot than where you played your first one. So maybe up here would be fine. If you can't play your second hero, then you must play a monster to one of the locations again. For your third action, doesn't matter what happens in your first 2 actions, you must play a monster, and that monster must go to a different location than where you put your 2 heroes. So each turn, you're going to put out thinks at 3 of the locations. Now there's 6 locations here, although in a smaller player game you would use fewer locations as the game progresses. So, to reiterate, you must put out 1 hero if possible. Then your second one you must put out another hero or a monster. And then your third one you must put out a monster. So, when the numbers are filled up, let's say for example there's 3 monsters here and 4 heroes here, because that's the numbers that are filled up on both sides. We compare the total strength. If the heroes are equal to or greater, you've won. The monsters are defeated. You score victory points. Like for example here, you see this card here. Whoever has the highest hero strength gets 5, and the second highest gets 3. Whoever has the most hero strength gets the treasure chest. All cards are discarded. Cards go back to their player. So if you put out a high person and they don't defeat their monster, you don't get to use them until they come back to your hand. But then, once that's done, as I said earlier, then the card will be flipped over. If the monsters win, then the heroes are discarded, the monsters are removed, but the treasure chests stay there, and we actually add more treasure chests because, I don't know, the monsters stole treasure from the previous heroes. There's a lot of special abilities involved in the game, but the game does come with cards that explain the special abilities, both on your heroes and on the monsters you play. Now, as you take these treasure cards from the deck, there's different treasure cards that you'll get, and as I said, many of them are simply just point values. Here's a 4, 3, and 2s, and just different numbers. But 5 of the cards in this deck show the night passing, and when these are month cards, and when 4 of these cards are revealed, as soon as you get these, you have to reveal them. As soon as 4 out of the 5 cards are revealed, the game instantly ends. Everyone totals up their points. Anyone who has treasure reveals it, adds it to their points, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. All right. Slavika.
What was that?
Okay. Slavika it's really a simple concept.
Slavika.
You're playing cards to one side and trying to beat the monsters. There's a couple things I want to say about this game, but let's start with the artwork first. To me, the artwork simultaneously was enjoyable, but also laughable. The monsters were pretty cool looking.
Yes.
Some of the heroes were pretty cool looking. And some of the heroes looked like the designer took some friends, said, hey, do this, and then drew a picture of them. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
The people look like they're posing.
Completely posed, like almost like, upper deck baseball card looking poses to where they're like,
I'm running off in the battle. Hang on a second, sir. We need to quick draw your picture. I don't know. Okay, but anyhow. But I mean, it's well done.
yeah, it's good artwork.
It's just, okay, anyhow. The theme of the game works, I guess. You're sending people out to fight monsters. And this game's going to remind you of other games. It reminded me of Dragon's Gold. It reminded me of games where you're always trying to, any kind of area control game where you're putting stuff next to cards and trying to control them. The game does have a few problems, though. One is that the ending of the game is kind of just completely capricious. There's, 5 cards in the deck, and when 4 of those cards come up, the game's over. Well, those 4 cards can come up like this. Boom, 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 boom. And the game is over.
Yep.
Or they could come out very long and drawn out,
Slowly.
and you're like, is this game ever going to be over? And that's a problem. That's one of my big problems with the game is pacing. It's just a very, very slow pacing game. One of the things about the game that's slow in pacing is that you have to play 3 cards on your turn, and you have to play them to 3 different places. And that sounds like it's a simple thing to do, but it's I don't know how to explain it. It's such a pain in the neck.
No, it is, because I don't know.
I didn't find that enjoyable.
No, because it added another dimension to the game that you have to think about during your turn that this game doesn't really warrant, if that makes sense. It makes you think harder than it should, and that kind of makes you angry. Sometimes. Other times it can be like, oh, I can do that, where it kind of clicks right away, but then you find yourself thinking too hard on a game that you shouldn't have to think hard about.
Yeah, and another, okay, that's one thing. Another thing I didn't like about the game was that it was very random. I mean, what you played was set in stone. But by the time it came back to your turn again, anything could have happened. A guy could play one and just change your attack to a lower number, or switch out, or he's higher, or the monsters change, and it comes back around to your turn and you're like, what is this? I don't even know what to do now, and I got a bunch of cards in my hand that are completely useless. And I just felt like, I don't want to keep comparing it to Dragon's Gold, but Dragon's Gold had that same kind of capriciousness in it, but then it had a negotiation round in which you took control. Here, there is no negotiation round. It's just blah, 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 blah. And the point values on the different spots were wildly different.
Yeah.
When one spot is giving 19 points and one spot's giving 5 points, that's going to lead to some really off-balance point scores.
Yeah, there's really no reason to go after the lower pointed regions, because you would have to literally take 4 of those smaller regions in order to equal one of those larger ones.
Yeah, so
it didn't make sense.
And then the scoring board. Then maybe this won't bother everybody, but why does every player have their own scoring board? That makes no sense.
So I can cheat.
Yeah, I guess. And okay, how many points do you have? Well, let me look at your scoring board, your scoring board, your scoring board. And you might argue that, well, it's a card game, so they need to make the scoring board smaller. You could have made a scoring board the size of this box, and everyone could have put their scoring tokens on it.
Kind of like Carcassonne.
Yes. Okay. Well, that being said, that's true. And then I guess the final problem I have with the game was just that it was really not interesting. It would get to points where you couldn't put out any heroes because they were all put out, so you're just putting out some monsters. Ho-hum.
Yeah.
Ho-hum.
And if you're having to put out monsters to finish, you would literally have to sometimes. I think this actually happened a few times, where you had to put a monster somewhere where you had no heroes, so you literally had to give other people points. You didn't have a choice.
Here's the deal. If a game ends and I go, yay, it's not a good game for me. And that's what I did when this one happened. This game, when we first played it, our first game just ended, boom, like that. And you know what? I would normally be annoyed about that. And I would be annoyed about that probably if I was like in second place.
It was happy.
But I was just like, woo! Because the game just dragged. I understand the idea of it, but you know what? When you add in all the special abilities that are all icons, so you can't, you have to constantly be looking, okay, what does that special ability do? You add in special abilities and you add in the slow play because you have to play 3 cards. You're like, okay, I put this one here. Oh, wait, if I put that one there, then you'll be winning that. Okay, so I'll put it here. Oh, but then I'll be getting fewer points. And you multiply that by 5, and you're sitting there going...
Yeah, it's almost like you've actually made analysis paralysis a mechanic.
Yeah, you can't plan ahead. There's zero planning ahead, so your turn is completely boring to me. What you do, I'm like, oh, you moved your piece there. Oh, you're winning that now? Well, what a surprise. Okay, so I'm giving this one, sadly, 2 fur hats down. I just didn't like it. I don't think it's a completely horrible game, but at the same time, I'm not playing it again.
And I'm going to give this... I didn't completely not enjoy it, so I'm only going to give this 1 purple worm. Down.
All right, yay for purple worms. All right, anyway, that's Slavika.
Slavika.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.